Ladies and gentlemen, g'day, welcome back to the channel. Yes, it's me, it's Economics Mate, and you join me once again here on the World of Tanks Blitz Reforged test server, where we're going to be going through a topic that, boy oh boy, did people absolutely go apeshit about. If you were living under a rock and you didn't see the Water Tanks, or rather the Wargaming live stream they did this morning or earlier today, they answered quite a few questions. And one of those questions, specifically talking about the devs here, the devs were answering questions. One of those questions was, why remove tech trees? Why remove tech trees? What was the reason for removing tech trees? So in this video, we're going to be doing a discussion talking about tech trees versus sets. And we're going to be comparing them and seeing whether or not the points that Wargaming made about sets is justified. So what Wargaming said was, and I quote, tech trees were seen as a very difficult way of grinding up tiers, right? It was very difficult to grind up in the tech trees for newer players. They didn't know what was going on. It was very confusing according to their data and their information. People were finding it very, very hard to understand what was going on and where they were supposed to go in the tech trees and what they were supposed to do when they first started the game, because they were basically introduced to all these tech trees and didn't know what to do. So that's one of their arguments. The second argument they made was the reason why they removed tech trees was because if they wanted to include or introduce more nations to the tech trees, they're going to have to, there won't be enough space to put them. Like, it'll be hard to navigate for people to scroll down and see more and more nations and whatnot. And it's just, look, I can kind of understand the nations part and having too many things to scroll down. I can get where they're coming from in that sense. But for them to tell us that tech trees are way more confusing and way more complicated than what we have here with sets is absolutely rubbish. That is honestly the worst excuse that you can give for completely removing a mechanism that has been in World of Tanks Blitz for the last 10 years, a mechanism that has been in World of Tanks PC since 2010, a mechanism that has been even in War Thunder for so many years. So why is it that here in World of Tanks Blitz, in the Reforged test server, have they decided to remove tech trees completely and then just go with sets? Their reasoning for it was, number one, sets make it easier for newer players when they start the game. It makes them easier to find what they want to do and to go, basically grind up a couple of the sets and go up the tiers. And then once they get enough coins and they get enough keys. Once they level up their player level, they'll be able to unlock another set. And then when they do that and they have enough, eventually they'll have enough to unlock another set. I understand that, Wargaming. I get it. But at the same time, you're making us pay. You're making us pay for sets to unlock. Why are you making us pay for these sets to unlock with these keys? This is another thing that a lot of people were concerned with because of the fact that keys are now a thing. So now Wargaming are making you basically pay to unlock certain sets in order for you to grind up those tiers. Why should you have to do that? Why should we have to pay for that? Right? I understand most of the time it's going to be free. Fair enough. I get it. But why is there a mechanism? Like, let's say I want to go here. Golem Gunners. Okay? For me to unlock this set, I need 16 keys. Even though my player level is at 140, I still don't have enough keys to unlock the rest of the sets if I want to grind these tanks. So I can't grind these tanks. The Skoda, the VZ44, whatever it may be, up to the VZ55. Because number one, I don't have a tech tree that I unlocked or that I bought on my main account. And second of all, I don't have enough keys. I won't have enough keys. Like, let's say hypothetically, I didn't have 19 keys yet. And I needed 16 to unlock this set, to grind this entire line. Yes, you may have some of the, you may have some of the premium tanks or collector tanks that are in this set. But all that means is it means that you can just play. You can just play the tanks. You don't need to grind the other tanks. But unfortunately, because of the fact that I only have premium collector tanks in this set, I could only just play them. That's it. I can't play the rest of them. I can't grind up this set unless I unlock the set. Why would you need to do that? Like, it's even more confusing than it is with the tech trees. I'm going to show you. I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison. This is the sets. You tell me whether or not you think this is actually easier than going through a tech tree. Now, I understand. The developers basically said, look, for a veteran player, like myself, for instance, who has a bunch of tanks, who've been playing for such a long time, are going to have all these different sets, right? Whereas for a new player, they're only going to have a couple sets, right? Now, I don't know whether or not this is true or whether it's going to look exactly like this. Let me know in the comments down below for anyone who has started a new account on that test server. Let me know what it feels like and what it looks like. Because if it looks like this, then that's just bullshit. Because then they're valid. Basically their point is invalid. It doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make any sense. If it looks like this, it's too much. Now, obviously, I like the designs of how they're done. I like that each set has its own unique features. I like how each set, you know, has unique names and it's got unique, avatars and whatnot. That's cool and all. It's all cool. It's got its own, you know, interesting music and animations and whatnot and billboards. Okay, that's cool. I like that. All that is cool. But what relevance does it have for a newer player? It's confusing for a newer player when they come in and they have no idea what it is. This is the point we're trying to make to the devs. It is confusing. This is confusing. You can't just start the game and then expect people to understand what the hell is going on. And like, why is it when we press collections, you've got all these avatars? How the hell are we supposed to know what these avatars are? We've got no idea. We have to go through browse to understand what the hell's going on. Even then, a lot of times, you won't know what's going on. One of the things that they made, the points that they made was, oh, you know, if you are grinding up tech trees, you won't be able to see, you won't have any idea unless you're like a tank fanatic. Unless you are like a World War II tank fanatic, you won't understand why this tank is in this tech tree and how this tank performs and how this tank plays. There's no like indication other than stats. That's what YouTubers are for. That is what content creators are for. That's what CCs are for. To make guides and to make videos and reviews on certain tanks. There's reviews out there for tanks that have been in the game for so many years that are still relevant even to this day. It just doesn't make sense to me that their reasoning behind removing tech trees completely and implementing this set thing right here, these sets, is mainly based on the fact that, oh, it's too complicated for newer players and blah, 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 and you have to be a tank fanatic to really know what's going on. And yeah, but then you just basically removed the whole concept of content creators and YouTubers who are making videos and reviews on these tanks that you have said is very difficult to comprehend. Cool. By implementing these things, what are you teaching us exactly? Like, yeah. These are the, what are they? The silent stingers, right? Like, let's have a look. This set's description is not ready yet, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to give you a description of what these are. I mean, based on the way they look, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see exactly what, you know, how these tanks are going to perform. Like, they're all lightly armored tank destroyers, right? Again, what I don't understand is why are these here? Like, what are these for? What is all this? So let's say a new player were coming, and he was talking about the Nashorn, by the way. He mentioned the Nashorn, and he said, well, you know, I'm a World War II fanatic, and I know what the Nashorn is, I know what it's about, I know how it performs, and whatnot, so I know why it's in this tech tree. But a new player who's not a World War II fanatic won't know what this is. Yeah, but they started that. I'm gonna show you how silly that assumption is. So this is this tech. This is this set, right? Nashorn, Dicamax, Stir WT, the Stubborn Emil or the Stura Emil. So yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Honest to God, I'm gonna showcase now the tech trees and show you why I personally think, and so many other people think, that the tech trees just are blatantly better. Yes. They are boring. Don't get me wrong. They are very, very boring. And this is a cool thing to see. But I think what they should do is use the sets that we see here. Have sets, but like have the sets where it's like, it's basically all the German tanks. Have all the German tanks, and then when you press on that German the German flag, you have the tank destroyers, you have the heavy tanks, you got the light tanks, and you got the medium tanks. 4 sets. Just have 4 sets. That's it. Have the 4 sets. And in those sets, implement the premium tanks and whatnot, right? Or even better, just don't even have the premium tanks in the sets because you're just grinding. Have a separate set where it's got all the premium tanks in it. And that's it. Not rocket science. It's not hard to make these sets look cool, but also make them look like tech trees. I'm going to show you the tech tree now. WOT Blitz, how I have missed you. Like, come on, guys. Like, this is our screen now. And then compare it with the screen that we saw in the Reforged update. You can't tell me this doesn't look just as good, if not slightly better and less confusing. Apart from all these stupid pop-ups that all come up, it was quite nice to see. And the garage and everything like that, you know? It's cool. It's cool. Here are the tech trees. Look at the tech trees. Here we go. We got the Americans, the Germans, the Soviets, the British, the Japanese, the Chinese, the French, and the Europeans. Now, Wargaming made it easier for people to understand, like, not easier, but like people to follow the European tech tree by just putting all the European tanks together and grouping them. And like, they're all together, like, you know. So it's not as confusing, I guess, to some extent. But at the same time, it's still, I can understand where they're coming from, where it is a little bit confusing with the European tech tree because you've got the Finnish tank, then you have Polish, Swedish, and then you've got Italian up the top, and then you have, what do you call it? Soviets here. It's not Soviet, sorry. You got Swedish here, you got Polish there, you got Czechoslovakian here. I believe it's Czechoslovakian. Please do not kill me. Yes, Czechoslovakian. Okay, and then we have another Czechoslovakian, then the Italian, then you have another Italian, then you have, what do you call it? A Polish? Yes, Polish. Like, it needs to be better set up. It needs to be better set up, okay? I can understand. Fair enough, the European tech tree is a bit of a mess. Let's face it, it is quite a mess. It's just huge. It's a big mess. Yeah, I don't know why Wargaming did it like this, but nonetheless, you can understand, apart from the European tech tree, like the American tech tree, right? You start out with the M2 Light, the M3 Stuart, the M5 Stuart, and then you branch off to a tank destroyer and a medium tank, and then you branch off to a tank destroyer, medium tank, and then a medium tank. Sorry, a tank destroyer, heavy tank, and a medium tank, and then you branch off to all the other tanks, right? It's easy to follow. It's not hard, right? It's not hard to follow. Just follow the arrows. Just be like, okay, well, I don't want to go up the tank destroyer line. I want to go up a heavy tank line, and you go, here you go. We've got heavy tanks. You can have a choice of 2 heavy tanks. You can have a choice of the T110E5 or the M6Yo. Then you also have a T57 heavy, which is over here. So you have to go through 2 light tanks, then a, what do you call it, medium, and then a heavy tank. And the reason why is because all of these tanks are auto-loaders. So, what is my point? My point is, Wargaming are saying that the tech trees are difficult to follow for new players and whatnot, but they're not. It's very easy. You have a T1 tank, you have a T2 tank, you have a T3 tank. See? 1, 2, 3. That's it. They already removed 5.5 tanks from the game, and it made it a lot simpler for newer players. And it's just streamlined. It's literally streamlined so newer players can find a way of what to do. Yes, at first when you're a new player, you'll be like, oh, this is quite confusing. What am I supposed to do? But then once you play and you understand and you read more into it, it should be easy to follow. It's not difficult. Let's have a look at the German tech tree, right? Again, you got 1, 2, 3 tanks from T1 to T3, and then it branches out to 2, and then it branches out to 3. Right, and then it keeps going and going, but it's easy to follow. The tank destroyers are up here, the medium tanks are here, you got heavy tanks here as well, and you got another light tank here, which branches out to other light tanks, which branches out to medium tanks, and you got heavy tanks here, and it's easy to follow. That's my point. The point is, it's easy to follow the stream of arrows. It's not difficult. You can have a look at the T10s. Yep, this is the T10 that I want. Let's have a look where you're supposed to go. Oh, okay, you can go up this line, or you can go up this line to get that. Cool. I'm going to follow whichever one it is. It's not rocket science. Yes, it's not visually appealing. I agree with Wargaming with that. I agree with what the devs are saying. It's not visually appealing. Correct. It isn't. It's quite boring, and it's like too much. Too many tanks going on all at once. But again, that's the beauty of it. It's easy to follow. It's the whole reason why. You don't want a system where it's confusing and it's all over the place and it doesn't make any sense, like the sets that we have. And this is so much simpler. It's so much simpler. You know where you're going. You just follow the arrows. You follow the arrows. You don't want to go You don't want to go to a medium tank. You go to a light tank. You don't want to go to a light tank. You go to a heavy tank. You don't want a heavy tank. You go to a medium. You don't want the medium. You go the tank destroyer line. It's so simple. You don't need keys to unlock these tech trees, so you can grind them. You don't need keys to do that. Okay. Yes, as I was saying, the tech trees are boring to look at. They are boring. They're not. There's no stimulus involved. But that's because it's a skill. It's technically a skill-based game. This is not an arcade, purely an arcade game. No, it's got some arcade elements, but it's also a skill-based game as well. That's my point. That's what people are freaking complaining about. So, what is the final verdict in my honest opinion, based on what people were saying? I will agree with Wargaming on the fact that, yes, the tech tree is visually unappealing. It's visually unappealing to most people. All of us veteran players, we love the tech tree because it looks cool. It's very old-fashioned and we like that. But some of the other more newer players might like a bit more engagement, right? A bit more engagement, a bit more, things to do, basically. A bit more visuals, right? It needs to look cooler. It needs to look more appealing. It needs to look more modern. And I understand that the premise of the sets is technically part of that. Like, part of that premise is, of course, to have all of those things put in. I get that. But the way they've implemented it is completely and utterly wrong. It is all over the place. It's confusing as hell. No one's going to understand what the hell is going on. And why would they? It's very confusing. So, my message to Wargaming would be, Wargaming, we, the Blitz community, and especially us veteran players, we love the tech tree. We love the tech tree. It's so easy to follow. And if newer players have issues with that, well, that's on them. That if you're claiming that newer players have issues with that, that's on you guys. Because you guys are claiming that they have issues, but I am yet to see someone complain and say, yes, the tier 1 grind on this specific nation is horrible. It doesn't make any sense. It's confusing. I'll tell you what is confusing. It's having all these freaking crates and whatnot pop up in your face and all these events that are pay to win when you think they're free to play events. Anyway, my point is, Wargaming. You want to implement sets in the game, implement sets in the game. I don't have an issue with the sets. Like, as an idea. Don't get me wrong. They are executed horrendously right now. But as an idea, I do like it. This is how I would implement sets. Okay, listen to my idea. Wargaming, I'm going to make a video on how I would implement sets, but just briefly what I would do. Have sets in the game, but have them where they're based on nations. Have the American sets, the German sets, the Soviet sets, the British sets, the Japanese sets, the Chinese sets, the French sets, and then you can actually branch out and have Italian, Polish, Swedish, and Czechoslovakian sets. Have them like that. Have them where you can just see the flags. And then be like, cool, let's click on the American flags. We click on the American flags. And then they subdivide those sets. You have subdivision sets where you have heavy tanks. So you have heavy tanks, light tanks, tank destroyers, and medium tanks, right? Cool. And then when you click on those tank destroyers, medium tanks, light tanks, whatever it may be, it goes another subsection. And that subsection will give you the type of tank destroyer it is, whether it's a turreted tank destroyer or non-turreted tank destroyer, whether the heavy tank is a autoloader heavy tank or a regular heavy tank. Or you have another one where it's like medium tanks. Is it lightly armored medium tanks or is it heavily armored medium tanks? Is it light tanks? You have light tanks, and so on and so forth. You get what I'm trying to say? You can implement it that way. So that way it's not confusing. But have them where the sets only have tech tree tanks. So you grind them, okay? So it's not as confusing. What about premiums? Well, you put all the premium tanks for each and every nation in a separate set. So you have all the premium tanks from the lowest tier to the highest tier, and then that's it. It's just there. It's not confusing and it's sitting in a set where you're not grinding it. No, it's sitting in a separate set where these are only premiums, and then you have another set where it's only collectors. Just sit and just organize it that way. At least then people will think they actually still have tech trees. It's a brand new take on a tech tree, and it's a good way to implement, I believe, sets. and then people won't have as much of an issue with it. But the key is to implement it correctly, not the way you're doing it now, because the way it is now is just an absolute mess. It's all over the place. Like I said, most people like the design. Most people like the design of the way the tanks come out and how they're presented and whatnot. It looks cool, but it's not what we want. You want to do it that way because I know for a fact you're not going to bring back tech trees. So in essence, we have to accept the fact that sets are going to be part of the game. Okay, fair enough. We can accept that on one condition, that you, Wargaming, you guys need to restructure the sets. It needs to look appealing and it needs to make sense. Currently, it doesn't make sense. If you implement what I said, if you create sets that are designed similar to what I'm talking about, we wouldn't have an issue. I'm pretty sure most of you wouldn't have an issue. Anyway, that is my comparison between sets and tech trees. Okay? And just to show you how confusing it is. So, my question to all of you is, which do you prefer? I already know the answer, obviously. It's obviously going to be tech trees. Understandably so. I would have picked tech trees too. I do. But we need to be optimistic here. And we need to be realistic. Okay? Wargaming are not going to listen to us when it comes to just keeping the tech trees as they are. They're going to implement sets, regardless of what they are, regardless of what we say. So instead of just accepting the fate and just moving on to a different game, how about we give Wargaming constructive criticism and we give them feedback that is going to actually help them understand that what they're doing right now is wrong and they need to restructure the sets so it makes sense in a way and that it looks like the tech trees that we have. That's the idea. That's what I want. So if they can do that, I'll have no issues with sets whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure you guys won't either. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to let me know in the comments down below what you think of all this conundrum and whatnot, and what you would rather prefer. I love you all. Look after yourselves. Look after your friends and family. Peace in the Middle East. And of course, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now, and to everyone who has donated to my streams and given me super thanks, thank you so much. You guys are absolutely the top dogs. You guys are bloody legends, every single one of you. You know exactly who you are. And of course, to all my new subscribers out there, thank you so much for dropping in and subscribing and liking the videos and watching the content. Much appreciated. I'm going to try to get to 10K in the next few months. That is my aim. Hopefully by the end of the year we can get to 20K. That's my big aim. I'm going to try and do that, and I know with your help we can do that. So let's make it happen. All right, cheers, ladies and gentlemen. I'll catch you all later. Take care.